What'd you make of the performance of your teammate, David Montgomery?
Welcome to week 4 of your NFL Power Rankings. I'm your football ranker, Brandon Perna. That's me. Today, I'm going to rank the top 14 teams in the NFL right now, and at the end of the show, I spin this stupid curse wheel. It curses a team. Last week, it boldly selected the Packers. You're going to try and get the Packers?
It's blocked! Oh my God, no!
So, I'm thinking the curse wheel is back. But first, we go to heaven. The healing lights of heaven. Well, that's going to Russell Wilson's career as a starter. Brian Daboll got the full Russ experience in 3 games from OptaStats. Russell Wilson is the first QB in NFL history to throw for under 200 yards and no touchdowns in one start, then throw for 450 in his next start, then throw for under 200 yards and no TDs again in his next start. The Jaxson Dart era will officially begin this week for the Giants. Dart will be tested instantly by a very tough Chargers defense, but this is Brian Daboll's last chance to save his job. In purgatory, we've got the Giants, Dolphins, Jets, Texans, Saints, and Titans, who all remain winless. Titans head coach Brian Callahan has relinquished his play calling duties to QB coach Bo Hardigree. If Bo realizes calling the play that is Cam Ward takes a terrible sack is actually a bad play, there might be hope for the Titans yet. In hell, Titans offensive coordinator Nick Foles, who got completely skipped over for the play calling duties. Also in hell, me having to see my quarterback ranked dead last by Pro Football Focus. Shut up, PFF. Shut the hell up. And while you're shutting the fuck up, please subscribe here to this YouTube channel. Less than 9,000 subs away from 800,000. We're trying to get there by the end of September. Oh God, I hope we do it. And if you like the cursed logos that you see here today, they're available at benchwarmershop.com. All the cursed logos in shirt form. All right, number 14 on the power rankings, the lowly Chiefs. Congrats, Kansas City. You made it back into the rankings. I still hate you and want you to kindly go fuck yourself. That said, I did want to highlight a player who had a big night on Sunday and kind of came out of nowhere to catch my attention. Former Patriots castaway, cast-off, casting couch Tyquan Thornton gave life to the Mahomes deep ball. Thornton had 5 receptions for 71 yards and a score. Now, I'm not putting you there yet, Kansas City, but when I watched Patty Mahomes injure poor Brian Burns by simply throwing the football at him, I could feel the devil crawling out of the Chargers' ass and slipping his way right back through Patty Mahomes' urethra. When they say the devil moves in mysterious ways, that's what they mean. Truly, only Mahomes could injure an edge defender and strip a fumble back for his team in the same game. Mahomes also had an interception dropped right before halftime. Also, he could get a 50-yard pass interference call a few plays later and get his team in field goal range heading back into the locker room. You shouldn't need devil magic to beat the Giants, but I fear you got it. Number 13, the lowly Ravens, who play the Chiefs in the 1-3 Bowl this weekend. I think it's fair to say that not all records are created equally, and it's understandable not to be concerned by a Ravens team that lost to the Bills and Lions, last year's top 2 regular season juggernauts. They've scored 111 points so far, which again is the most ever by a losing team after 3 games. They also gave up 224 rushing yards against Detroit, which is the most a Ravens team has allowed since Jimmy Harbaugh was hired back in 2008. That combined with 7 sacks allowed and 30 pressures surrendered on just 27 passing attempts is a decent sign that the whole operation is a little fucked right now. How do you give up more pressures than you have passing attempts? Only Lamar. We all assume that because it's Baltimore, they're going to get their stuff together soon, and that might be the case. But last year, they only allowed 38 points once in a victory, and now they've let it happen twice in 2 weeks. Even worse is Derrick Henry has fumbled 10 times in the 4th quarter during his career, which kind of makes him the Phillip Rivers of running backs, doesn't it? Number 12, the Jaguars. Yeah, the Jags, they're a mildly uninspiring 2-1 team that could very easily be 3-0, but even if they had won that Bengals game, I think they'd be the most dysfunctional undefeated team in the league right now. They could very easily also be 0-3. They lead the league in drops with 9, and one of the more concerning things about this team is they're not getting the most out of rookie Travis Hunter. At least not yet. He's got just 10 catches for 76 yards and only 2.5% of his routes are generating first downs, which ranks 62nd out of 65 qualified receivers. The conspiracy theorist, or maybe just the theorist in me, wonders if they're not sending him on deeper, more developed routes because they're not trying to tire out a guy who's playing snaps on both sides of the ball. Also, if you watched him at CU, you know he's a better corner than a receiver, and maybe they got this approach ass backwards. Either way, they should have had a better plan for a guy James Gladstone talked about like Jesus Christ himself.
We want him to be nothing more than him, because when he is, he elevates the space around him.
But fuck it, they're still 2-1, so good for them, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of love, Jacksonville. Number 11, I've got the Seahawks. The Seahawks are significantly better than the Saints. We knew this, but it was also good to confirm that they were 31 points better. This team is a late fumble away from being 3-0, and a big part of that is Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's got 22 grabs for 323 yards after 3 weeks of football, second in the league behind Puka Nacua by just 10. He's also extremely efficient, and as you can see here, he's broken the piss out of this chart that tracks yards per route run and passer rating. If you were worried how their passing game would look without DK or Tyler Lockett, just turn to JSN and noob Torrey Horton, their 5th rounder, who has 2 receiving TDs plus a casual 95-yard punt return. He joins Percy Harvin and Tim Brown to be the only guy to do that through 3 weeks to start his career. That's called a draft steal. They've also been extremely stout on defense. They're the only team through 3 weeks that hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown. I think the Ravens are really feeling the pain of losing Mike McDonald about now, who in year 2 in Seattle has that unit on the up and up, and it's allowing the second fewest points per game right now at 15.7. Number 10, the Rams. Maybe that loss to the Eagles is a little bit of a Rorschach test for the Rams. Are you encouraged because you took the defending Super Bowl champs to the final play only to lose on a blocked field goal at the buzzer? Or are they crestfallen that they let a 19-point lead slip through their fingers while they learned their secondary couldn't keep up with the Eagles' wide receivers in the second half? At the end of the day, this is a team with the firepower to beat any opponent on any given day. I believe that. I also think with the unfortunate loss of Nick Bosa, the Rams and the Seahawks will be the 2 teams to battle it out for the NFC West and home playoff game. You come for the rankings, but stay for the obvious predictions. Number 9, the Vikings. We're about to see what the Vikings are made of when they make an unprecedented back-to-back international game road trip. Historians will note that the last time the Vikings landed in Ireland, they literally took the place over. And if there's ever a time to deploy your red-headed backup quarterback, it's this week, Minnesota. Plus, the Vikings can bring an extra weapon with them as they voyage the Atlantic with receiver Jordan Addison, who's returning from his DUI suspension. The Vikings defense now has 5 forced fumbles, which is tied with Pittsburgh for most in the league. And while the defense doesn't have any other juggernaut stats, it feels like Brian Flores is building one. I think he might be the best defensive coordinator in the league at the moment. I talked about him a ton in winners and losers, but Isaiah Rodgers is also the top-rated corner in the NFL through 3 games. Now, let's see how long Wentz can keep the Vikings pillaging. Number 8, the Commanders. We learned last week that the Commanders are not just Jaden Daniels' personal resurrection project. They have pieces all over the field, and they're in a good position to survive their next 2 games against the Bears and the Cowboys before their starting quarterback hopefully gets healthy and they host the Chiefs. I'd say Dan Quinn is the face of the Commanders franchise while Jaden is injured, but his face is still way too bloody. Number 7, I've got the Packers. Every time you think you figured out the NFL, you're reminded that you know absolutely nothing. I thought the Packers were a front runner to get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC based on, weeks 1 and 2, and then they go and lose to the Cleveland fucking Browns. The Browns of Cleveland! Ultimately, I think we'll look back and see this game as an anomaly, a blip on the radar as Green Bay faced a very good defense while that defense still had something to fight for. And Myles Garrett, he's a monster. So much so that the Packers left tackle was yelling for Jordan Love to run for his life as Myles blew right past him.
I beat him on the cleanest inside.
The Packers defense still only allowed 44 points through 3 games, best in the league, and that includes 2 games against the Lions and Commanders. FYI, the Lions and Commanders combined to score 152 points in their 4 games against teams not named Green Bay. That's an average of 38 points per game against other teams. The Pack are probably going to be fine, but losing a game at Cleveland in a tight division like the NFC North could, sting maybe at the end of the season. And shout out to Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, who are both rated as top 15 corners right now. Coming in at 6'6", the Chargers. Yes, they're holding their devil magic position this week. Benchwarmershop.com. It's our only flavored coffee. But what the hell is going on here with the Chargers? These Chargers are not chargering. I feel like someone has to turn this team off and turn them back on again so they can reboot and get back to losing close games, and we as a nation can return to some sense of normalcy. It's for the country, LA, okay? I don't think it's gonna be the Giants who do that, even with the Jaxson Dart debut. So there's a real possibility the Chargers have a 2-game lead in the AFC West by the quarter pole of the season. And that's just not right. Where is the force ghost of Phillip Rivers' jism telling Justin Herbert to throw a back-breaking pick at the end of the game? Phillip Rivers would have had 3 kids with Madison Beer by the time Justin Herbert got to the hand-holding.
She's not fertile, so therefore you can together either really try to have a child or really not.
Smell like jism.
If the Chargers and Colts do play in the AFC Championship game, I'm going to feel a lot better about the last 2 losses for my Broncos. Number 5, the Buccaneers. Now we're going to see what the Bucs offense looks like without Mike Evans for the second year in a row. He's out for 2 to 3 weeks with a low-grade hamstring injury, so it's not as bad as initially feared. But I'm not sure it's as big of a deal as we think, given that Emeka Egbuka has been the leading receiver on this team in 2025 in terms of receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Chris Godwin could come off of IR this week. Maybe the lack of Mike Evans changes the way Egbuka gets covered, but the guy is looking like an early offensive Rookie of the Year candidate. The biggest get back is tackle Tristan Wirfs, who will add some desperately needed boost to that banged up offensive line. The Bucs have survived every game, no matter what happens to them. They're unkillable. The Chiefs did that shit all the way to the Super Bowl last year. And I wanted to highlight Jamel Dean. He's allowing a passer rating of 14.6 when targeted this season, plus he had the huge pick last week. Dean didn't allow a touchdown last year, and he's on track to do it again. Number 4, the Eagles. This team proved to us on Sunday that it can win in multiple ways, and I think that's what makes them a championship team, even if it was me shitting on them last week. Now, they can grind it out and win the most boring football game you've ever seen, or they can put the game on Jalen Hurts' shoulders and watch as he erases a 19-point deficit against a playoff team. And here's a big reason why this team is so good. They score touchdowns in the red zone better than any other team on earth. The most crucial one coming on 4th and goal when Hurts found Devontae Smith for the eventual game winner last week. The Eagles need to get more pressure from their edge defenders. That's one thing I'd like to see. Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith only have 8 pressures each. Philly is good at getting interior pressure, we know that, but for that defense to resume form, they need someone to replace Josh Sweat's production. Just 3 sacks for Philly right now. Even the Parsons-less Cowboys have 4. Number 3, the Bills. Oh, this is a good team. They're so good. It looked like they were giving about 60% effort on a short week against the Dolphins in a must-win game for Miami, and the Bills still ended up winning by 2 scores. What's even more concerning, if you're a fan of another team trying to get seeding in the AFC, is Buffalo's upcoming schedule. Their next 4 games are against the Saints, Patriots, Falcons, and the Carolina Panthers. who have just 1 sack this season so far. Jesus, there's a really good chance Buffalo is 7-0 when they face the Chiefs after that. Of course, no one really gives a shit until they play them in January, but that'll be a good litmus test for the Bills mid-season. Plus, that 10 days of rest was nice for injured key defensive players Ed Oliver and Matt Milano. Even better is there's no need to rush them back with this schedule. The AFC East has 2 winless teams and the Patriots with just a single win at the moment. The 07 Patriots were the last team to clinch a division by week 11. I think the Bills can tie that. Number 2, the Lions. Even without Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell's offense was still dipping into its bag of tricks against the Ravens. As you can see, the Lions ran that option pitch play, and that came from when Dan Campbell was an assistant coach on the Saints. If you want to go even further back than that, it came from when Dan Campbell was actually blocking on that play with the Cowboys in 2013. We can hail Ben Johnson as a great innovator in play calling, and he is, but let's not treat Dan Campbell like a caveman who was gifted the invention of fire by his former offensive coordinator.
Dan Campbell, not surprised. He's got big onions. I mean, this is a bold move.
If the Lions win the NFC North again, with all the turnover on his staff, Dan the man needs to be the front runner for Coach of the Year. Now, I put the Lions ahead of the Bills because I thought they controlled the game against the Ravens. Baltimore is their shared opponent this season, and even though the Bills win was crazier, Detroit was better against them from start to finish. Even though the Lions and Bills are in a dead heat on the Derrick Henry fumbles. The Lions had 2 long drives that ate an entire quarter's worth of game clock. I love the way the Lions receivers block downfield, which feeds their 2-headed monsters, Sonic and Knuckles. The Ravens were down 2 edge rushers, but the Lions didn't give up a single sack. And number 1.5, the Browns defense. Just your defense. It's not your fault. Your offense is 3rd worst in scoring at 15.3 points per game. Cleveland is allowing a league best 57.3 rushing yards per game, 4th fewest passing yards, 2nd most sacks with 11. If your offense could do anything, I think more people would be talking about the dog pound defense. And number 1, yeah, it's still the Colts. It's still the Colts. Is Daniel Jones the greatest quarterback in Colts history?
Do you agree with my take that you are already the greatest quarterback in Indianapolis Colts history?
Yeah, I don't know if I can go that far yet, but it's been a good start for us. Good start.
He might be too humble to say it, but here's a fact. Johnny Unitas lost 70 games with the Colts. Peyton Manning lost 67 games with the Colts. Andrew Luck made Pat McAfee famous because the Colts punted multiple times during his too short tenure in Indianapolis. Not the case with Daniel Jones. He has lost precisely 0 games, and he abhors the mere idea of letting Rigoberto Sanchez onto his field. Indy's O-line nails. The defense top 10 in points allowed, rushing yards allowed, and passing yards allowed, and Indy is +5 in turnovers, joining the Bills as the only team without a turnover this season. All right, let's spin the stupid wheel. Kerr shirts, benchwarmershop.com. I'll fix that next week.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Oh no, Indy, my number 1 team 3 weeks in a row, you're going after the Colts? Seriously? All right, it's your biggest test yet. It's your biggest test yet. I don't believe it. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel.